What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Colby Covington has a strong message for Leon Edwards. Although UFC President Dana White has dubbed Colby Covington the #1 contender at welterweight, Leon Edwards has maintained that he has no plans of accepting a fight against the former two-time title challenger if it's presented to him. Currently, Chaos is a slight favorite over Edwards at -125. However, the MMA community has remained split in regards to who they think wins this fight. The way veteran Matt Brown sees things, Covington is a much easier fight for Edwards than Belal Muhammad or even Shavkat Rakhmonov. Henry Cejudo, on the other hand, believes that Covington will be easily able to grind out a 5-round decision over the champion. The way Colby Covington sees things, turning down a fight isn't a wise decision. During a recent interview with MMA Fighting, Covington answered the question that it's on everyone's mind. What if Leon Edwards sticks to his guns and refuses to fight Covington until he earns a crack at the belt?
This is the only piece of advice that I'm ever going to give you. Only, because next you're going to get your ass whooped. There's a saying that goes on, Leon, and shut your fumbling mouth, open your stupid ears, and listen to the advice I give, because it's the only advice I'm going to give to you, Leon. You don't cross your boss, and you will learn the hard way. Remember that, Leon. That's the only advice I'm giving you. You don't cross your boss.
Of course, as many were quick to point out, there was a time when Covington was actively speaking out against the UFC. In 2019, he famously filmed himself in a casino calling out an unsuspecting Dana White, who was in the middle of gambling. That same year, he fired scathing shots at White in an interview with MMA Junkie Radio, saying that Dana White cashed out after making money off the fans, while at the same time questioning what White had done for the UFC.
Dana's not even, he hasn't done anything. He just remains a little check boy, he holds his coat. So, I don't know, Dana's just already cashed out.
Given the fact that Covington is now next in line for a title shot, it seems as though he and the UFC have mended fences. How do you see things playing out at welterweight? Will Dana White and the UFC get the champion to accept a fight with Covington regardless of whether or not he thinks Chaos deserves it? Or do you think he refuses and forces the UFC to make a decision regarding how they plan to handle things? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Francis Ngannou drops a bombshell about Kamaru Usman's training camp. Former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou was watching as Kamaru Usman took on Leon Edwards for the welterweight title at UFC 286 in London. In the video of Ngannou's live thoughts, he was understandably frustrated as he saw his friend drop a decision in the highly anticipated trilogy fight. Although he wasn't happy to see Usman lose, he believes that the fight proved Usman is able to bounce back from the horrific knockout sustained in the pair's second meeting. In addition, the Predator dropped a major bombshell about the Nigerian Nightmare's training in preparation for the London Showdown last weekend.
I know that he didn't train, he didn't have to train properly because of a lot of injury, but he was there, it's a victory, an unfortunate victory, but I think now he's mentally healthy than what that was before.
Ngannou also predicted that Usman would be able to climb back into title contention in the future. Although there's been no word on what could be next for him, there's certainly no shortage of willing opponents. Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier recently stated that he believes a fight with Belal Muhammad is the best move. However, UFC President Dana White revealed during the UFC 286 post-fight press conference that the promotion was working to book a fight between Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov. What do you think the future holds for the former pound-for-pound king? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Dana White gives massive update on Zuffa boxing. After years of talk and speculation as to the status of Zuffa boxing, UFC President Dana White dropped some big news regarding the potential endeavor this week. During an interview with Sports Business Journal, White revealed that over the last 8 to 9 months, he and his team have put together plans for a boxing promotion. With the ball already rolling behind the scenes, White thinks they'll be ready to launch in the next 1 to 2 years. During the interview, he spoke about his desire to get back into the boxing scene, saying, "I don't know if I can fix the sport, but I think I can put on fights that people want to see, and I can make boxing interesting again and build a brand around it." This, of course, comes on the heels of White taking shots at the world of boxing when he found out a fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk had not been finalized yet. As he stated at the time, the problem with boxing is that the biggest fights don't always get made. something that many were quick to point out was also true in MMA, the most recent example being the super fight between Francis Ngannou and John Jones that fell through as a result of the UFC's restrictive contracts. The Bones vs. Predator matchup falling through proved to many that the Zuffa model doesn't necessarily guarantee that the biggest fights will always get booked. How do you see the move into boxing going for White? Sound off in the comments below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Bryce Mitchell believes Makhachev vs. Volkanovski was rigged. Flat Earth isn't the only conspiracy Bryce Mitchell is throwing his support behind. The controversial featherweight recently made some pretty bold claims in regard to the UFC 284 clash between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. Although the fight was an incredibly close one that saw both men find success at various points, Mitchell believes that the fight clearly should have been scored in the featherweight champion's favor. During an interview with Fanatic's View, he sounded off on the scoring in the Clash of Champions.
I guess they just paid the judges to I don't know, but I know Alexander Volkanovski won the decision. I don't think nothing. I know he won, and I know that shit was rigged, and I'm not stupid. You can't tell me that shit wasn't rigged. I'm not buying it. You can pay them judges whatever the f you want to pay them. I know Alexander Volkanovski won that fight.
From the sounds of things, both Volkanovski and Makhachev will have to defend their respective titles once more before the pair can clash in the octagon again. For Volkanovski, the fight will be a title unification bout with Yair Rodriguez, while Makhachev has teased a potential fight with Leon Edwards for the welterweight title. Mitchell, who recently suffered the first loss of his professional career, will look to return to the win column in May when he squares off against Jonathan Pierce at UFC 288. How did you score the Makhachev vs. Volkanovski fight? Sound off below. And now for the breaking news story of the day. We have Joe Rogan going off on the UFC for not allowing fighters to use IVs for rehydration after weight cutting. He then goes on to say that weight cutting is dumb and shouldn't exist to begin with. Here's his full take on the situation.
I think it's good that the UFC did something, but I think ultimately what they did is a little bit of overkill. And it just, like, particularly the IVs for rehydration, I just don't. I know that they're saying that it can mask performance-enhancing drugs,
but that's
well,
if you
test them before they get an IV. There's ways to test. Like, it's healthier for the fighter to have an IV. Yeah. What they really should do, and I've been saying this forever, and I know it's hard to do, but they should outlaw weight cutting. They should figure out a way where fighters fight at their natural, make more weight classes and have fighters fight at a natural weight. You're talking about, about to fucking go to war for 5 rounds in a cage 24 hours after you're almost dead, which is really what happens to a lot of these guys.
It's like running a marathon in the desert. That's what I used to feel like, man. I'd be just sucking water, no calories, no nothing. And then you get in there and you're kind of like a shell of yourself, you know? But I do agree with you. There is some components that they could, monitor your weight during the training camp. What's the heaviest you got? What's the lightest you got? Come up with an average of that. Then, hey, you can't weigh more than 190 on fight day. If not, pay a fine or I don't know what.
Do you agree with Joe? Or do you think the UFC Alexa Grasso talks Valentina Shevchenko rematch? In the wake of her massive win over Valentina Shevchenko at UFC 285, Alexa Grasso wants to keep the momentum rolling by handing the former champion another loss in an immediate rematch. According to the newly crowned champ, that rematch could very well take place after this coming summer. And if she has her wish, it'll take place in Mexico. After picking up the biggest win of her career, Grasso is more than willing to grant Shevchenko's request for an immediate rematch.
Yeah, I would love to fight again with her. I know that she's, like I said, I know that she's super competitive. I know that she's perfectionist as me. So imagine second fight, like truly imagine how now I'm wondering what's she going to do in this second fight, what she's going to try to do now, showing the first ones, showing what I did, Also, I have a lot of things to do and improve and to get better and I mean, it's going to be like a chess match.
As many people have pointed out, between Grasso and Brandon Moreno, 2 of the UFC's champions represent Mexico, meaning that the promotion could look to have the pair defend their titles on a card together. In addition, interim featherweight champion Yair Rodriguez could make it 3 if he manages to dethrone Alexander Volkanovski when the pair collide in their upcoming title unification fight. According to sportsbetting.ag, in a potential rematch, Grasso is once again the underdog. Opening odds for the rematch had Grasso as a plus 155 underdog to Shevchenko's negative 180 favorite status. When Grasso and Shevchenko step into the octagon once again, how do you see things playing out? Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. Conor might not be the fighter he once was, but stepping up to fight Chandler late summer just might throw up a surprise or two, but never write the notorious off. Someone replied with, Conor is washed up. Leon's gonna find out real fast that he is not the matchmaker. The moment you think you're bigger than what actually made you, that's when it's over. And those were the top comments from yesterday's video. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out yesterday's video in case you missed it. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all of the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.